Hi there, welcome to Elm Colors. I'm Erica. On today's video, I am going to be working in Cosmic Spirit. We're going to do the color along for this month in this book, and I have a color palette picked out, some markers set aside already. So this is my inspiration sheet or pictures here. So I kind of want something a little muted, a little not bright like what I normally do. I normally do bright and colorful, but I want to change it up just a little bit this time. So I'm hoping that I can pull this off. I am going to just jump in with some alcohol markers right away. So I'm going to start with this green alcohol marker. So this is Green Shadow 420 from Ohuhu, and I'm just going to do the whole sky, all of it, with this color. So yeah, so just straight in. We're just getting started right away. Just want to get I probably need to put a backer page on there. There we go. I just want to get the sky, kind of make sure that it's done. All with this green. Now I'm worried because this green is a little dry, so we shall see how this goes. But yeah, I'm just going to do my best to get this lightish green color across the entire sky. And then we're going to move on to the next step. So I will talk to you guys again here in a second. All right, this next step is going to be kind of different. But I really liked the black cats against that like lighter green color background. However, I don't think I want two of the same cat. I want them to be opposites because that's kind of, at least from my understanding, that's kind of what the Gemini is. It's like two sides of the same coin, right? So you never know which kind of cat you're going to get, but with people. But I think I'm going to do this one in the black, like a black, and then there's like these little patterns on here. And I'm going to try to do that with like this really light peach color. And then I'm going to do the opposite on this side. So the cat will be light and the stripes will be in this darker black. That's my plan. I really hope I don't completely mess this up, but you know, I say that every time pretty much. So I'm going to do NG07 on this cat here. Okay, I wanted to pause here so that you guys can see how crazy this cat looks. Like it looks rough. It's going to look rough, but we're going to fix it with our pencils. So don't worry too much about it. This is just a base layer. I did use this gray turned out to be a little bit darker than I was hoping for, but I really do want it to read as black and not gray. So you can barely see some of the texture lines in there still, but that will be what I use to remember where my shading and stuff is. The other color I'm going to use is E000. So this is like a super, super light, creamy beige color, like a really super light peach. And I'm going to use that for the patches. I don't want them to be stark white, so I'm going to use this color instead. And then I have a really light pink. So this is my Copic R20. I'm going to use that for like the paws. I'm going to go ahead and put that on the paws over here too. And the nose. I don't know what I'm going to do with the inside of the ears yet. Probably something similar, but that's just like a super, super, this combo is like super light. So I'm going to do the opposite on this side. So the body is going to be this E000 and the dark spots are going to be this NG07. So wish me luck. Okay, there's that done. I'm going to use this blue color. So this is PB5. I'm going to use that on the tall plants down here. No, I lied. I'm going to use them on the smaller plants. I'm going to use it on the smaller plants. So I'm actually going to use my fine end for this. You could absolutely do this with alcohol markers or water-based markers if you want. That would be just as doable. So yeah, I'm going to color all of the smaller plant life with this blue color. And yeah, I will be right back with you guys. Okay, now I have this BG5 that I'm going to use on the other leaves, so all the other plants that I've got here. Okay, so we've got the greenery, I know it's blue, but greenery done. The cats have a base layer, the sky. Now I'm gonna do the clouds, and I had originally thought I was gonna do alcohol marker, but I think I'm gonna play around with some chalk pastels in the background for this, because I want like this creamy, newspapery kind of color. And I think that I can get that with some of the chalks that I have. So we're gonna try that. And then the last thing we'll have is to give the planets around here a little bit of a base layer, and then we'll be good. So yeah, so let me grab a couple of chalks. I think I'm gonna start with this one. So this is almost, it's like a creamy yellow kind of, oh, that's like perfect. I'm gonna do that on all the clouds. And then when I come in with my pencils, I will add in a few different shades with my pencils to the clouds. And then I'm planning to do like a gold, or probably a gold on the constellation and the word down here. I'm not sure about the symbol yet. That one's still up for debate. I'm not sure. I'm going to think about that a little bit and see which one I want to do. If I want to do that in the gold as well, or if I want to do like, I don't know, like a black or a light green like the one up here. I'm not sure yet. But definitely the constellation and the word Gemini will be in a nice gold color. I feel like that's a good, there we go. Okay. I am going to go ahead and add in just a little bit more color to that. I want to add in a little bit of brown. So I have, let's do this one. So this is like just a nice light brown color. I'm going to add that in just a couple of places just to darken up some of the areas. Okay, cool. I'm going to use my eraser to get rid of color anywhere that I don't want it, but I feel like I can just go over the top of most of this. I am going to just go ahead and clean this guy up real quick. These flowers and things, I do have a nice gold color that I was going to use for that, so I've been using the Ohuhu Y2, and just add that color right in there. Okay, so there is in the inspiration image, there's a little bit of pink, like on the flowers here, kind of spread throughout, but I really like that color, and so I think I'm going to make this main planet or moon in the background. I'm going to go ahead and give that a base layer of pink. And then I'll add some different shadows and stuff with my pencils. I'm just going right over the top of the whiskers too right now, because I will come back in with paint pens to bring those back out. Okay. Yeah, that looks a little different, but it's okay. So I think, and then the last couple of planets, I have this BG68. So I'm going to try to do those. Yeah, that'll work. Just add that color. I'll probably, again, go over the top of that with some pencils to kind of change the shade of that. I just want this base layer down. I want this a little bit more muted. This is a little too bright for me right now, and I want that to be a little bit more muted. Actually, I might even be able to come back over top of it with the chalk pastel that I did earlier. Oh, that's actually looks really good. I'll just keep that. That's handy. I might bring some of that out into the sky too. Again, just to create that nice muted look that I'm going for. Okay. Okay, so there is my base layer. I know these, especially this cat looks like a crazy hot mess, but we're gonna fix him up. When we come back, we will start with the clouds and the sky in the background, and that'll be with some pencils. So I will talk to you guys again here in a second. All right, so I'm going to be using my Black Widow pencils, and for the sky in the background, I've got my Iceberg and Charcoal Green Black Widow pencils. I'm going to start with the Charcoal Green and just do a few little random streaks through the sky. I'm not planning on doing a whole lot to this background because I do really like that color, but I just need to add a little something because I can't help myself. So we're going to add a few little stripes through the sky, and I'm just doing it all on a diagonal, kind of in the flow with the little meteors or whatever that are flying through the sky already. And, you know, not touching the pencil very hard to the paper. Kind of barely bringing that through, but that it creates just like this neat look. And so I'm going to try to do the same with the iceberg. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, that shows up. I wasn't sure if that was going to show up or not, but that's going to create another little cool look, I think. When I was little, I liked to do these kind of backgrounds on my coloring pages. Just take a crayon and go through the whole background at an angle and just very lightly color it in. So it's fun that I get to do that again on my big girl coloring pages, right? Okay, yeah, so that just adds just a fun texture to the background that wasn't there before. And it was really simple and really quick and easy. So, all right, let me grab some colors for the clouds. Okay, we're gonna start with these colors. I've got mahogany, suede, fudge, and ice cream. And I do have all of the sets of the Black Widow pencils. If you don't have these colors, it's okay. You can use anything that's kind of close to these colors. So I'm going to zoom you in a little bit so we can work on a little bit of the clouds. So we're going to work on this section over here. I'm going to start with the mahogany. And again, I'm very lightly, hardly putting any pressure on this page at all so that I don't get any weird lines that aren't going to blend out. And then I'm going to blend that out the best I can with my oyster color. I feel like maybe that was still too dark where I put the mahogany. But that's okay. Some clouds can be darker, some can be lighter. I am going to go ahead and add in some of this fudge color right over the top of that, though. That'll warm that up a little bit. Okay. Yeah, and then with the ice cream, it kind of does it. I was going to add, just so sometimes the edges of the clouds are pink. Like I don't want them to be pink every time, but sometimes is good. Yeah, I don't love that brown. I might erase that actually. Okay, so I erased that mahogany. I'm adding in the fudge color first. We're going to try that and see what happens with that. And then I'll see if I can add a little bit of mahogany in like the darker areas. And again, just blending it out into the rest of the cloud. Try to blend it out the best I can with this ice cream color. There we go. Okay, that kind of works. And then I'll go over all of it with the oyster. Yeah, that works. Okay, that's good. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab my, what is it? My Zephyr Blue, and use that as like a shadow color in some of the darkest areas. Because I do want this to be, you know, lighter and muted, but you still have to have some of that contrast in there. So things look good. Okay, and then on top of that, I will try to do this white Posca, see if that might be too white. I like the white, even though it is a little bright, but then I'm going to come back in with the fudge and just darken up so the clouds will go from looking like this to looking like that. So it's just, it is really just light layers of color, but then just several different layers, I guess. Okay, So what I do, I did the pink. Let's just go right over top of that with the oyster. That kind of retains some of that darker color. Do a little bit of the mahogany in a couple places, and then the Zephyr blue. Cool, and then we'll do the ice cream. And then again with the fudge, just in like the texture lines there, and then outline all of it with my Posca. Okay, yep, I like that. So that's what my clouds are gonna look like across the whole page. So I'm gonna head off screen, take care of that, and I will be back with you guys here in a minute. Okay, here is all of the background stuff done. So I've got a little bit, I'm gonna hold this up closer. I've got a little bit done in the sky in the background. So you can kind of see the lines kind of going in the back. It's very subtle, but it's just that little bit of extra bit. And then I did all of the clouds. So we did a nice combination with those Black Widow pencils on all the clouds. I am going to use my white Posca and just add a few dots randomly to like around the edges of the clouds. So anywhere towards the top where I've already got the white Posca on the lines, we're going to do a couple little dots. So I'm going to do that all across the clouds here. Okay, so there is all the clouds done, and I like that. Okay, so we're gonna start on the cats next. I'm gonna start with the black one because that one's gonna be a little trickier for me. So let's zoom in on that guy. Let's start with him. So I pulled a couple of pencils, and it's very dark, but you can still just barely make out some of the lines. So that's gonna really help me figure out where my placement is for my shadow colors. So I've switched to Polychromos pencils because those ones are going to hold their points a little bit better. So I'm not going to have to worry about sharpening them quite as much. So I have the Polychromos black, I have the Payne's gray, I have the indigo, dark indigo, and then I have my Prismacolor white. And we're going to use some of those. I might bring in the ivory from the Polychromos as well, but we'll see kind of how this goes. I'm going to start with the black, and I'm just going to kind of go in and try to darken up the areas where the shadows would be. So definitely like around the eyes here. And I was a little bit messy with my marker work, so can kind of clean that up as best we can with the pencils here. Okay, so yeah, it looks like that there's just right around the nose here, we've got some darkness that needs to kind of be darkened up just a little bit. And then there's a few little like hairs around the eyes. We're not going to do a ton. I'm not going to do like the whole thing is going to be fur today. I'm just going to do a little bit because I feel like it's just going to get lost in all the craziness that's going on there. I am going to, on the inside of the ear here, I'm going to go ahead and add a light gray. Well, it's the Payne's gray, but I'm using it very lightly. I'm going to do that on both ears. And then I need a pink. Let me grab a pink real quick. So since I had my Prismas right next to me, I'm just going to use this blush pink, and I'm going to add a little bit of pink to the ear, but not a ton. Just a little bit in there. Okay. And then, yeah, and then we'll come back in with the black, and I'm going to just kind of extend the fur kind of over the lines that the artist has drawn in. So yeah, I'm not doing too much as far as texture like on the actual cat, but to show that it is a pretty furry cat, I am going to be adding some fur with the pencils. So So yeah, here, I'm going to hold that up. I know I'm zoomed in, but just so you can kind of see that ear a little bit different, or a little bit closer, so you can kind of see what I did. And then the same thing over here, I'm going to be just using this nice sharp pencil, and I am, after every couple of strokes, I pick my pencil up off the paper and turn it a little bit so that I'm always, well, not always, but most of the time I'm having a nice pointed tip. Okay, and then I'm going to come up this way, just the same. Like this part of the ear is not quite as fuzzy, but it's still has a little bit of fuzz, you know? I hope that's the right terminology there. Okay, and then we're just gonna do a few little strokes there, and I think that that's good. Trying to see where, so I think here's gonna be some, yeah, it is kind of hard to see all of the strokes in there, but you know, if you look pretty closely, you should be able to see a lot of it. Okay, so here's my other idea. I'm going to start with this ivory and see what I can do, but I'm going to try like where sections overlap other sections. So like here, we're going to get quite a few little strokes in with the ivory just to show that this is a little bit lighter. So I'm going to do that a little bit around the edges of the nose and a little on the mouth. So just these little subtle differences are really gonna kind of help create the depth that you're looking for instead of just a solid black cat. Like if you want a solid black cat, that's great. You can absolutely do that. But this kind of helps create that illusion, I guess. I'm not sure what exactly is the right term to use for that. But yeah, so anywhere where things would overlap. So like here on the shoulder, where this part of the arm kind of overlaps, there's a little bit of fur kind of going this way on a couple of spots. I'm going to go ahead and touch that up with the ivory first, and then when I come in with the black, that'll just kind of define that area a little bit better. And if you want them really, really defined, like you can do that with like a white, but since I just want it just a little bit in there, I'm just using the ivory because I feel like that's going to be a good kind of middle color, I guess. Okay, cool. A little bit up here too, I guess. Yeah. Okay, and then for the spaces where it's like the different color sections, I am going to go ahead and extend the color into the black a little bit. But here in a minute, I'm also going to come in with the black and extend the black into the lighter areas. So if this isn't perfect, that's okay. We're just doing the best we can with what we got here. I hope that looks better already. I feel like it kind of does, though. This tiny little pencil is not easy to work with, but yeah. And then I'm going to use the black to kind of do the reverse, where I just bring the little flicking motion into the lighter areas, just so it looks like fur strokes and it's not just automatically just like big blobs, you know? Okay, so now I'm just going to go through with my black and darken up wherever I think some shadows might be, and try to remember to maintain that kind of, that little flicking motion the best I can, add in some little hair strokes every once in a while, but I'm not going overly crazy with it. I do want the cat to appear pretty fuzzy, So anytime on the outside edges of the cat, I am going to kind of add extra, a little bit extra black, just to make it look like the cat is fuzzy. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to record some of that for you and let you guys see, but really I'm just going through and just adding a few fur strokes every once in a while, and trying to pay attention to the direction that the fur is going as well. So yeah, so I will be back and talk to you guys here again in a second. Okay, so I've got all of the kind of initial shading done on the cat. I'm going to go in with my white Posca and just add a few more things. So especially like on the areas where these whiter patches are on the outside edge, I'm going to go ahead and add some white to those, and then I'm going to just add in a few hair strokes with the white as well. I'm not outlining the whole thing, and I'm not doing everything, you know, super dark or anything, but I wasn't quite happy with the difference, the contrast between the ivory and the black that I had originally. So we're just going to add a little bit more. I think that's supposed to be yellow, so we'll make sure that that gets a yellow. A little bit right here. Okay. All right, I think that's good. I might darken this up a little bit because this is kind of behind. Like this is all, should be a little in shadow. And I brought the indigo blue just to help get some stronger shadow colors in there, but I think it's gonna be okay. All right, I think that part of him is done. I'm going to go ahead and do my the whiskers here, which I'm just going to do with the white Posca. Okay, so black cat is mostly done. I just have his eyes left to do. I think I'm probably going to do the same thing in both of their eyes. Okay, so I forgot to press record on this, but I used a combination of the Prismacolor Sap Green Light and the True Blue to do the eyes there. Gonna darken this back up around the outside edge. Make sure I got a nice pointed cat's eye here. Okay, and then I'm gonna use my Posca to come in and add in the little starbursts that are in here. There we go. I think that's good. So that is cat number 1 done. So I'm going to show you kind of what he looks like close up. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. I'm going to have to come in and around some of these plants. I'm going to have to clean that up a little bit with my pencil, but yeah, that shouldn't take very long. And then I will show you a little bit about this cat over here, but I'm not going to go through the whole cat since we did. It's going to be basically the same technique, just kind of in reverse on this one. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, I thought I'd start with the eyes on this one just so you can kind of see. So I just did a light layer of the Sap Green Light all the way across. And then I did a little bit of the True Blue on the outside edges. And then blended that again with the Sap Green Light. There we go. And then just added the white dots, and that's basically how you do the cat eyes. It's not, that one's not tricky. Okay, so for this cat, I'll give you the color combo that I'm planning to use, and then we'll go from there. So I've got Warm Gray 3, Warm Gray 2. I have some, the Nougat color. I have the Ivory, and I have the black as well for this one. And then, of course, the pink for the nose and the ears and the paws a little bit. I do want to add a little bit more pink to the paws here. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and add the pink in. That looks cute. Okay, and then a little bit of pink on the ear here. Okay, so yeah, for this one, when you have a light color fur that you want to color, it's really all about the shadows that are created on the fur. So you want to start, like I usually start with a lighter shadow color, and then if I need to darken it up, I can, but this way I can at least kind of see what I'm doing. So this one, I'm just really going to go in where all of the lines are that Fabiana drew in for us, and I'm just going to add a little bit of this color to those areas. And I'll just show you the face here just so we can speed this up a little bit, and then you can kind of use the same technique on the rest of the body. I will show you the darker patches on this one too, though, so you can kind of see what that is going to look like. I am adding a little bit of shadow underneath some of the whiskers too. Yeah, and then I'm also going to darken up the corners of the cat's eyes. Okay, and then, yeah, I'm going to use the lighter color to kind of expand outward from there. Maybe just add a few random strokes on the cat's fur. So I'm just going to have like a few little lines in here that in this really the lightest the color that I have. And then again, I'm going to use this nougat color, is that right? Yeah, nougat, to add in just a little bit warmer tone. And this is not going to be, I'm not going to use this very much at all because it's so different than the grays, but I want it to be a little bit warmer than just gray. Even though I'm using warm gray, I'm going to add in a little bit of brown to some of the spots there. Okay, and then I'm going to use my ivory to try to blend that around a little. And then I can use like this darker gray color to, you know, darken up underneath where there would be more shadows. And that'll come more into play like around like the legs and stuff that are out there. And then after all that, I will come in with my white Posca and add a few little hair strokes around the edges. And you can see that I'm not covering all of the lines, I'm trying to just get like a few little hints of white. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, and so I'll just do that around a few different places. And that should be good. Maybe a little bit up here. There we go. So that's going to be the rest, how like the rest of the fur looks too. And then of course all of these whiskers are all going to be white as well. So yeah, I'll do those two, and then I'll move on to the rest of the body, and then I will be back with you guys here in just a minute. Okay, so here are both cats all done. I'll hold this up closer so you can see. So I just did the same pattern all the way down on this cat over here. I did try out a couple of gel pens on these flowers down at the bottom. I don't really love that, so I'm just gonna leave the flowers as they are. I'm gonna add a little bit of shading to the planets and the leaves here. So that's gonna be my next step. All right, I'm gonna try the Polychromos Salmon to add a little bit of shading to this. I think it's supposed to be a moon, but I'm just gonna make it pink because I like pink. I think it's gonna look nice. All right, and then in all of these little sections are going to be a little darker too. All right, now I'm just adding some texture to the open areas. Just adding a few little dots. Okay, I like that. I am going to go ahead and add pink into these little drippy bits. I don't really understand why the moon is dripping, but this is an interesting book, so I'm just going to go with it. So I'm just using the salmon. All right, and then I'm also going to come through and outline that with white and then go back over top with the pink color. Oh, you know what? I wonder if I have a pink. Hold on a second. Okay, I do have a Lengua gel pen that is close in color to what I've done here. So I'm just going to try to use that to get rid of the black line a little bit. Okay, next section I am going to, there's the moon. It looks okay. It's not my favorite, but it looks okay. I'm going to do some shading on the leaves, and I'm just going to use the deep cobalt green and my Prismacolor white for that. So just adding in shadows wherever they need to be added, and then coming in and adding a little bit of white to some of the bits. So like on the edges of some of the little leaves and stuff. All right, so yeah, I'm just gonna go through and get all of the shading done on all of the green leaves real quick. All right, greenery is all shaded in there. So I've done just white and that cobalt green are the only two colors that I've used. So next on these other planets, I'm going to use cobalt. Oh no, this is cobalt green. What was the other one? Deep cobalt green was the one I used for the shading on the leaves. For the planets, I'm going to use some cobalt green just to add a little bit of shading to a couple of the spots on these planets here. I'm not going to go crazy with this because it's in the background. It is not the main focus here. So we're just going to add a little bit to these guys too. I'm going to do this one up here too. Okay, yeah, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of cream to the planets as well, just to kind of dingy it up. I don't know if that's the correct term, but I don't want anything too bright and happy. I mean, I want it to resemble this inspiration image. Okay, so on these blue flowers or blue leaves, I'm just going to use my dark indigo and the white to do some shading. So again, that's going to be very simple shading. So I'm just going to do a little bit along the center and then along one edge, and then bring in a white highlight wherever I feel like those are needed. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just take care of those really quick. So that won't take me very long at all, and I will be right back with you guys again. All right, so there are all of the blue, hopefully is that in focus? Yeah, there's all the blue leaves done. Okay, we are almost done. So I'm gonna do a little bit of shading on this center section here. I was going to just fill it in with metallics, but I think I'm gonna do like a gold pencil work on that. So let's zoom in on that. Okay, so I have sepia, dark brown, and yellow ochre. I'm going to start with the yellow ochre and just add the yellow in where I think I'm going to make sure that I leave white areas for highlights. Okay, so there is the layer of gold. I'm going to start with the sepia, I think, and just do that in the really dark spots. Anywhere where there's definitely going to be shadows, I'm going to add that in there. Thankfully, the shadows are pretty much drawn in, so you can just kind of add it to the spots that look like they need some shadow. And then I'm going to blend that out a little bit with the dark brown. And then I'll go back through and add in, so like on this section here is where I'm kind of finishing that up. I'm going to blend out those two colors again with the yellow ochre. And it's not a perfect gold, but it's doable. I think it looks all right. Just adding in the white in the areas where the highlights definitely would be. And then I can come back in and bring in more white with a Posca if I want to, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to do the rest of that. This is all the, yeah, this section here is all shaded now, so I'm going to do the same thing on the rest of this Gemini symbol, and then we will be done with that. So I'll be right back with you guys. All right, so there is that one all done. I am going to now use my Posca to cover up all of the like meteors in the background, all the stars and everything. I'm going to cover up the darker circles around these starbursts. Everything's going to be covered with white. The stars in these lines are staying, and the word Gemini down at the bottom are staying regular, but everything else is going to get a coat of white. And then I'm going to use some metallic watercolors on the word down here, the centers of these stars, and the constellation as well. And then a different one on like the larger swaths of meteor or whatever they are. So yeah, so I'm going to head off screen, use my Posca, get all that stuff covered up, and then I will be back and we'll do the metallic watercolor part. Okay, so I am planning to use this metallic watercolor set. This is from, I will have to put it on screen because I can't remember. That's Creative Expressions, but there's an actual Cosmic Shimmer. That's it. Cosmic Shimmer watercolors. So I'm going to do like this. It's called Enchanted Gold. So this one up to the top here, I'm going to do that on the streaks in the background. So I'm going to do that real quick. All right. So just have a little bit on the tip of my brush here. And this isn't going to be like anything that's like super apparent, but when you shift the light, it should pick up some of that lovely gold shimmer. Okay, so you can kind of see when I move the page how it reflects that gold back at you. I do really like the way that looks. So there's that one. And then we're going to move on to the little stars and the constellation, and the words are all going to be the same gold. And it's this gold pearl color here. And I've got a teeny tiny little brush. So I'm hoping that I can stay in the lines. Normally I would just do like a gold gel pen, but for some reason I am wanting to try to do it with the watercolors. And I'm probably going to mess up, and that's okay, because I don't know, it's just okay. All right, so I am going to work my way from this side to this side of the page. So I'm going to keep playing with this stuff here. So hopefully this doesn't take too long. I'll do a couple of these guys, and then we'll move on to the constellation so you can see how that goes. And I do want to try to make the watercolor a little on the thicker side so that it can be a little bit more opaque. All right, let's try some of these stars and the constellation itself too. I'm just going to do the best I can to stay in the lines there. But again, I want to try to make this a little bit opaque so that I don't have to do too many layers of the gold. I can also come back in if I go over the lines too much with a black fine liner and get that fixed as well. Okay, so I am going to head off screen, finish all of this up. I might come back and show you a little, well, no, I was going to say I'm going to come back and show you some of the Gemini, but I mean, it's the same process as the stars and the lines here. I just have to be really careful and try to keep all of the watercolor within the lines. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to head off screen, finish this up, and I will be back with you guys here in a second. All right, there's the finished page. I went through and finished up the metallic watercolor on the Gemini, on the constellation, and the centers of these big starbursts. And then I've got the lovely metallic gold iridescent on the streaks going through the sky. I think that turned out pretty cool, so I'll hold it up so you guys can see a little bit better. There are a couple of spots where I'm going to touch up with my black pen, but that's just to bring back the black lines that are on there. But yeah, I think that's it. I like the way that that turned out. It's a different, definitely a different kind of color palette. So thankful that I found these two inspiration images, and I do like what I was able to create with those. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.